It is 6 o'clock. I will call the May 14th, 2024 meeting of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors to order. Before we proceed, this past Sunday was Mother's Day, and I'd like to recognize our resident mothers, Miss Lawson and Miss Collins, as well as all our other mothers. And believe me when I say, when you no longer have your mother, it's a little bit, hits a little bit harder. So with that being said, tonight we have Pastor Jonathan Hammond from the Holy Trinity Lutheran Church to provide the invocation. If you would stand and remain standing for the pledge.
Let us pray. God of all creation and all mothering among us, you call us all to labor in your vineyard and give us the tools, the people, the will to do good things. Be with those who meet this night. Guide conversations and decisions that they may lift up those most vulnerable and in need among us. In this place of rare beauty, we lift our eyes to the hills all around us. Help us to care for all creation. In all that we say and do, that we be guided by care of neighbor, near and far. Guide us, lead us, and keep us this day, this night, and always. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on the agenda as always is citizens' time. We do not have any citizens signed up to speak, so I will close citizens' time. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing to discuss the Wythe County Solar Project siting agreement. Again, we did not have anybody signed up to speak for the public hearing. So with that being said, I will close the public hearing portion of the Wythe County Solar Project siting agreement. And Mr. Bear, I will turn it over to you for any comments.
All right, Mr. Chairman, first item just to get started, for clarification purpose, the Planning Commission last week heard on a solar site for compliance with the comprehensive plan. That has nothing to do with this project that is before us here today. This project is a battery energy storage system project that is on the Wythe County Solar Project property, which is there in Foster Falls, that is already under construction. I will at this time turn it over to Mr. Hankins for information, and then we do have representatives from the company here as well if you need any additional information.
Mr. Baird, let me stop you before we give it to Mr. Hankins, and I'll ask you or Mr. Farthing, I may have messed up. It happens quite frequently. Do I need to read the public hearing notice for the record?
I think, do we need to or not?
You can, or you can waive it. That's up to you. Make your choice. It's nice to have it in the record. So
You want to read it, Mr. Baird?
I'll be glad to read it, Mr. Chairman. Notice is hereby given that the Wythe County Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 14th, 2024, beginning at 6 p.m. or as soon as practical thereafter in the boardroom of the Wythe County Administration Building, 340 South 6th Street, Wytheville, Virginia, 24382. The purpose of this hearing is to give citizens and persons an opportunity to appear and present their views on the proposed siting agreement between the Wythe County Solar Project, LLC, in Wythe County, Virginia, pursuant to Virginia Code 15.2-2316.8, in connection with the battery energy storage system proposed to be constructed on a portion of parcel 61-3-15 within the existing project area of the Wythe County Solar Project, located on the southern side of Paintown Road, State Route 772, in the Lead Mines Magisterial District. All persons who wish to comment may appear in person at the meeting, may submit comments via electronic mail to Martha Collins, County Clerk, at mgcollins@wythco.org, or by mail at 340 South 6th Street, Wytheville, Virginia, 24382. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the Board of Supervisors may approve the proposed siting agreement and authorize signing. A copy of the draft siting agreement can be reviewed at the County Administrator's Office located at 340 South 6th Street, Wytheville, Virginia 24382, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., holidays excluded, or online at www.withco.org. By order of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors, Stephen D. Baer, County Administrator.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hankins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The applicant is here, so they can stop me if I say something wrong. We've got an application from RWE, which is the operator of the Foster Falls solar collection site. They've submitted a siting agreement to us to invest approximately $107 million in a 52 megawatt battery energy storage system there within the bounds of the solar facility that is in development now. Staff has reviewed the application from them, the siting agreement, which is one of the ways that we have as a county without zoning to be able to approve this sort of operation. Staff has issued an opinion that we believe that the application is worth accepting and recommend that you do so. The basis for that opinion is that it has limited development impact. These are 12-foot containers that they're separated by firewalls. It's high-capacity batteries within the containers. And yeah, so there's not really going to be much of a visual impact beyond what is already there with the solar farm. The environmental impact is limited. They included this as part of the original submission to DEQ, so DEQ stormwater requirements are already met. There's little first response impact. There are 4-hour rated firewalls that are required by the ultimate purchaser of the power to be stored at the site. Engineers have provided data that demonstrates that the possibility of a fire is extremely small, and in the event of that fire, it would be limited to individual battery cells. There's little life and safety concern. The building code doesn't even require fire suppression in these facilities. There is venting of gas from the charging of the batteries, but it's not an environmental impact. There are a lot of direct benefits to the county. They have proffered direct payments to the county, $150,000 within 30 days of acceptance of the signing agreement, $500,000 within 30 days of issuance of the building permit, and $500,000 within 30 days of the site beginning commercial operations. There's some tax benefits as well. The company's analysis stipulated that it expects an increase of the assessment on the land value to $10,000 per acre. This would fall under our revenue share ordinance. So if you look at those numbers versus what they would pay in depreciating machinery and tools tax over 20 years, this is actually in the county's best interest to go this route. Additionally, they've also given us information on decommissioning that shows the current decommissioning cost for this facility to be just over $1 million. Decommissioning would not take place until the facility has been out of operation for 12 months. And the company would provide surety prior to the issuance of the final permits. So for those reasons, staff recommends that you approve the project, or approve the siting agreement as presented.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hankins?
How often is the surety upgraded or updated?
It's reviewed every 5 years by code, and it has to be, the analysis of the cost has to be performed by a third party, somebody independent. This firm out of South Boston that provided the estimate here does this for projects around the state and even beyond Virginia. So, I'm not the arbiter of whether that's the right number, but it is the third party number that we've been provided.
All right, does anybody else have any more questions for Mr. Hankins? All right, any discussion?
Did I leave anything out since the applicant's here?
Is there any, all right, I'll open the floor for a motion to approve the siting agreement as presented.
I make a motion that we approve the siting agreement, which starts on page 7.
All right, have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. Is there any questions or discussion on the motion? I will say one thing that Mr. Hankins didn't mention, and I believe I've mentioned it before, that while I've not been a fan in the past of these developments, this plan is probably one of the best I've seen, and the site restoration plan is very detailed for what will happen to the site to return it back to what it is currently. I was impressed by that. But is there any other questions or discussion? Right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote with Mr. Terry.
Aye.
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 No. So approved. Next item on the agenda is the payment of invoices. Each board member has received in their package a copy of the invoices that need to be paid, and I will entertain a motion to pay those invoices.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion by Mr. Terry,
Sorry.
a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions or any invoice that any board member wishes to pull out? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item on our agenda is the minutes from our previous meeting from April the 23rd, 2024. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any corrections or additions to the minutes as presented? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So approved. Our next item on the agenda is old business. Mr. Barrett, do we have anything under old business?
I do not have any action items under old business, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hankins, do you have anything?
No, sir.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if
I'm
I
sorry.
could, just for a moment, back to the battery siding agreement. That was motion, or that siding agreement was approved. Would you do a motion to authorize Mr. Bear to execute that agreement on behalf of the county? I don't think that was included in the motion.
I can't do it, but I'll float it out.
If you float it out there, that'd be great.
moved.
Motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Terry. Any questions or discussion on that one? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 No.
So approved. Now moving on to new business. First item on our agenda is the Rural Retreat Fire Department air packs. Mr. Hankins, I believe that's you.
Yes, sir. This is something we discussed with the Budget Committee. They've recommended that the board discuss this. Rural Retreat's air packs will no longer be covered by Honeywell, the manufacturer, after December 14th of this year. The air packs, the compressors, all the equipment that goes with them, Honeywell is getting out of that business, and it's older equipment anyway, so they were probably going to have to replace them sooner or later anyway. We've gone out for pricing, and we included some county equipment in there in the quote, but we have $176,109 as the pricing for Rural Retreat on this project. The town has offered to cover 10% of the quoted price, not to exceed $18,000. And if you accept that proposal, the county's remaining share would be $158,500, plus the cost of the county equipment that's included in this bid. We've been pretty kind to Rural Retreat in the negotiations on taking over the rescue squad. We've saved the town considerable money, both with direct contributions that they were making and some of the other things that they were covering, like the ambulances that they covered, some of the building maintenance costs and that sort of thing. I'm inclined to think that they could do a little better, but seek your guidance on whether you would like for me to negotiate another number, whether you want to proffer a number that you see as fair for the county to pick up, or we can have that discussion as a negotiation in closed session if you would rather go that route. The important thing is that we do need to do something fairly soon, because it will probably take 6 or 7 months to get that equipment here, so it needs to be a buy fairly soon. We don't want Chief Evans and his firefighters to be without the necessary gear to tackle a major fire. So I would ask that you provide me with some guidance. Regardless of however we proceed, I would also need a determination from the board. Most of our county agencies use MSA fire equipment. There's only one vendor that's eligible in this area to sell us that equipment, so I would need a determination from you that SureFlow out of Galax is the sole source provider for MSA self-contained breathing apparatus in our region and authorize a purchase.
So, Mr. Hankins, what was their rationale behind only 10% when 40% of their calls is in the town with Rural Retreat?
I'm not sure that I can explain the rationale.
So, I mean-
I would optimistically say that they were starting the conversation. I don't know if that's the best they're able to do.
Yeah, well, that wasn't a good way to start the conversation. I mean, if you're gonna lowball the county like that, and 40% of the Rural Retreat Fire Department's calls is in the town of Rural Retreat.
That was for April. I didn't go back and do a longer period, but I think that's probably gonna hold pretty true.
You think it's gonna be true for the year's time?
Pretty close.
So, from my standpoint, they need to ante up 40% of the calls.
At least.
I mean, that would've been the minimum they could have done, offered up.
Well, and they do have ways to cover those costs. They do get ATL, the Assistance to Localities Funds, they get some funding from that. They also get some funding from the county to support the fire department. I believe it's $49,000 in the upcoming budget. So there are ways that they could either manage that purchase directly or finance that purchase.
So, I mean,
Is it 60% of the calls are out of the town, or?
Yes, sir. That was just for April. I didn't do a longer look. But 60% was outside of the town limits.
yeah, to me, that offer, I mean, I'm just speaking for myself, that's really disrespectful for the firefighters at Rural Retreat that support that community. That the town's not gonna offer up any more than $18,000 for something that they need if they have to come to their house and it's on fire to come in to get them. I mean, that bothers me. So my opinion is we need to go back to the town and say, you're gonna have to sharpen your pencils and come up with some more money. But that's just me.
No, I agree. I agree with Mr. Smith.
I mean, I know we gotta do something, and we've got some time here, or time constraints, that something has to be done, because we gotta get the right equipment up there, and going back to your other question, I think we need to align that equipment up with everything else we got in the county, so if the group in Galax is the group, then that's who we need to go with. But the town of Rural Retreat needs to own some of this, more than 10% of that.
Well, we aren't really required to do any of it, right? I mean, technically, they can buy it themselves. It's their fire department, is that not correct? So they could be responsible for the whole thing.
Yes, sir.
So I think we need to definitely send it back to them and have them give us a respectable offer, not this. This is crazy. There's no way. I'm not voting for it. Want me to make a motion that way? Floor is open. I make a motion that we send this back to Rural Retreat, have them come up with another offer, a more respectable offer, and then we'll consider it.
I'll second that motion.
All right, have a motion by Mr. Cook, a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a
We need to
roll
put
call
something
vote.
in there to allow him to
Negotiate?
negotiate.
I assume that.
I will add that to allow him to negotiate.
All right, is there any other questions? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
No.
So approved. I'll entertain a motion, to recognize that Shore Flow is the sole source provider of the MSA SCBA for our region.
So moved.
So I have a motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions or discussion on that one? Here now, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Anything else on that, Mr. Hankins?
No, sir. I'll email the town manager, and if
Well,
they have the opportunity to.
I was getting ready to say, since time is of the essence, and we're getting ready to talk about tax rates, and we're not gonna raise tax rates, unless I hear a objection, I don't see why you can't step out and call Mr. Childers, since their meeting doesn't start till 7 o'clock, and let him know the decision of the board in case they wanna discuss it at their council meeting tonight.
I'll do so.
Saves a few weeks.
I won't tell you how long the phone call is.
Well, I really don't want to say this, but I don't know that we need you for the rest of this. We'll hear a car start here in a second. All right, everybody's favorite topic this time of year is our proposed tax rates. Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Chairman, this and the budget recommendation, as you know, we've had the budget presentations. We've had some work sessions to review the numbers. As discussed, we are able to balance our budget this year without any proposed tax rate increases. I don't know if you want to take care of the tax rate now, or if you want to discuss the budget as well in the process, or how you would like to approach it.
Well, there's no increases, so I'm not sure there'll be a lot of discussion, but we'll go ahead and float it out there, and I'll entertain a motion to adopt the tax rates as proposed.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Morgan.
Mr. Chairman, if I may clarify, you said to adopt the tax rates, and you meant to say advertise the tax rates.
Advertise the tax rate, I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
Yes, sir.
I said earlier I make mistakes. Does that change your motion or your second?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
All right, is there any,
It's got to change his motion.
is there any questions or discussion on the motion to advertise the proposed tax rates? Right, here now we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Next item is our budget recommendation. I will commend the chairman. Last night, he was already on top of it and had the governor's press release, as we have all talked about. We were concerned that the governors and the General Assembly may not have a budget finalized until later in the year, but they have reached an agreement. Our budget included most of the items. We were estimating that they would include the 3% increase for teachers. It included 3% increase for constitutional officers. My recommendation, Mr. Chairman, would be that we proceed with advertising the recommended revenue and expenditure budget in the amount of $117,452,763, which is a decrease of $3.6 million from this year's budget. We should have the school board numbers. I've talked to them today. They're going to get their numbers coming in off of the governor and General Assembly's adopted budget. They should have their numbers. We should have actual constitutional officers' numbers. But we can proceed with advertising, and then if we need to make any minor adjustments to those numbers before we vote on June 11th or June 28th, we can do so.
Right, I'll entertain a motion to advertise the FY '25 budget recommendation.
So moved.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, will you including the school board budget?
Include the school board.
Second.
All right, have a motion by Mr. Cook, a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any questions or discussion on that one? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item on our agenda is the holiday and county picnic schedule.
August 9th, Martha, I did not write it down, yes. The county picnic is on August 9th in the afternoon. Of course, all of you all are invited. We would request the board consider closing the offices on that day, and so everyone can enjoy the picnic.
The whole day?
The afternoon, from 12 to 5.
I mean, I'm okay with the whole day, but I
Yeah.
don't know how you feel about that.
Well, Stephen left out part of that is, July 4th is on a Thursday this year. So, if you want to consider giving the 5th as an additional holiday, I think the discussion was going to be give the 5th as an additional holiday and then half a day on August 9th.
August 9th. I'll make that motion.
All right, have a motion by Ms. Lawson to give the additional holiday July 5th and half a day on August the 9th for the county picnic. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions or discussion on that one? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? So approved. Our next item is our engineering agreement for the Exit 84 lift station.
Mr. Chairman, I would typically run this through Water Committee first, but this project needs to happen immediately for some repair work, and I would request the board's approval of this proposal from Thrasher Engineering.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the engineering agreement as presented.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Morgan. Is there any questions or discussion on that proposal?
And this covers the entire repair, correct?
This is the engineering agreement to design everything for the repair work. Yes, sir.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes, sir.
I understood
Good
that
question.
correctly.
Does that lead to any questions? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Anything else under new business?
I do not have anything, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hankins, you have anything?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll move on to board reports. We have the Buildings and Grounds Committee.
Buildings and Grounds Committee met on May 7th, 2024, and only has one action, that posting the notice of intent and willingness to hold a public hearing for the Route 619 right-of-way abandonment request.
All right, coming from committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussion on that recommendation? Mr. Mayor, before we vote, do we need to add a motion to advertise the public hearing, or is that?
We are just going to do the notice of the willingness to hold a public hearing.
But, I'm sorry, do we need to set a date, is what I meant to ask.
If you would just allow us to do that in compliance with that
law,
requirement
yes, sir.
of it's got to be a certain number of posting days, 30 days or something like that.
Does anybody have a problem with that? All right, coming from committee, it doesn't need a second, so we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
Aye. So approved, and that was all from Buildings and Grounds.
That was it.
All right, we'll move on to Budget Committee.
Budget Committee met on May 7th, 2024, and recommends the following. Amending and appropriating $3,335 to the Airport Commission's budget for emergency water line repairs.
Again, coming from committee, it doesn't need a second. Any questions or discussion on that recommendation? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye.
So approved.
Authorizing the county administrator sign the progress part lot 10 development match verification form.
Any questions or discussion on that recommendation? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Authorizing the county administrator to sign the assignment and transfer of the Evan Tram Governor's Deployment Opportunity Fund, assigner's rights, titles, interest, and collection obligations to the Virginia Economic Development Partnership Authority.
Is there any questions or discussion on that recommendation? Except for I made Mr. Bear read that one, it was a little wordy. All right, we'll do,
Just for the record, I was struggling.
do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved.
No further items from the Budget Committee, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll move on to Board of Supervisors time. Mr. Burnett, we'll start with you, sir.
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Lawson,
I have nothing at this time, thanks.
Mr. Cook.
I have nothing at this time, sir.
Boy, that's getting ready to get ruined. Mr. Smith.
One thing, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Byron, did we ever reach out to Lane, about possibly cleaning up some of them?
I will do a follow-up with JIDA. They were trying to arrange a meeting with them to go through covenants and also property, so I will.
It's looking pretty rough out there. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Morgan.
I have nothing at this time.
Mr. Terry.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I think this is Law Enforcement Appreciation Week, and I'd like to make a motion that we adopt a resolution recognizing our Wythe County Sheriff's Office, the Town of Wytheville Police Department, the Town of Royal Tree Police Department, and the WCC Police Department in recognition and appreciation for law enforcement.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion to do a resolution by Mr. Terry in a second. Mr. Terry, I would just offer, since we are home to the Division 4 of the Virginia State Police, that we include them.
I'll agree. I will add
And-
Virginia State Police Division.
And I would offer that we invite all the agencies to the next meeting and give them a copy of the resolution.
That would be nice.
Good idea. Yes, sir.
Amend your motion.
I'll amend my motion to
I'll
include
amend the
that.
second.
All right. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry, we'll start with you.
Aye.
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 So approved. Anything else?
That's all I've got, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. I've just got a couple of things. I did get the, graduation announcement from George Wythe High School. Oddly enough, I talked to Mr. Blankenship, the principal of Royal Tree High School, who wanted me to pass along that we probably wouldn't be getting paper graduations because their supplier has told him that there's a paper shortage. I'm just repeating what I was told. But graduation is coming up, the tech center on Thursday night, retreat in George Wythe, Friday, and come down and hang out with Mr. Smith and, Mr. Burnett down at Fort Chiswell on Saturday morning. It's always good to see our young people, graduate. It's been several years for a lot of y'all. See, I was gonna look at Ryan, but you were just convenient. Besides that, exciting news, Retreat Lake and Pool, grand opening Saturday. We got a heated pool. I may jump in the water. I invite all of you to come out. And before that, I believe Cody Jackson sent us an email. They're going to have a dedication down at Lead Mines to recognize the Branscombe family and their years of service to EMS, which I think is very appropriate as we have recently went to full-time EMS coverage, paid EMS coverage in the county. And I'm proud to say, as far as I know, we have not missed a call for help since the county took over?
Not to my knowledge. There have been some rolled calls as we've worked out the staffing and the coverage, but, yeah, it's been very limited.
And I think that's a testament to, you know, this board and Mr. Hankins and Mr. Bear identified, you know, a problem. I've said it before, you know, when grandma's having chest pains, she don't care what side of that ambulance says, she just needs help. And I think we've addressed that problem, and knock on wood, we've fixed it. So it costs a lot of money, but like I said, anything with lights and sirens is expensive. But, that's all I have. And does anybody else have anything to come before the board? Mr. Bear,
No, sir.
Mr. Hankins,
No, sir.
Mr. Farthing?
Yeah.
Ms. Collins? Man, these short meetings are scaring me.
Me too.
With nothing else to come before the board, we'll be adjourned.